Washington. President Donald Trump spent hours isolated in the third-floor residence of the White House for 2 straight mornings this week, agonizing over developments in the Russia investigation, as aides scrambled to reschedule some briefings to prepare him for the most complicated foreign trip of his presidency. Whether the 12-day journey to Asia offers a welcome diversion, or whether his preoccupation with Russia becomes a dangerous distraction, is a question that will be answered along the way as he leaves Washington on Friday. The president's aides have spent months preparing an agenda that will keep Trump engaged and upbeat, people familiar with the planning of the trip said. With this week's indictments of 2 former campaign aides and the announcement of a guilty plea from another, advisors now hope the bustling diplomatic swing will prevent Trump from further stewing over the Russia inquiry. A premium has been placed on avoiding snags that would bring the president outside his comfort zone, including, according to one official involved, a mandate that familiar food be available during Trump's meals. No whole fish with the heads still on, nothing too spicy, is how one person involved in the trip's planning characterized the instructions for Trump. The Asia trip has stirred anxiety among some aides in the White House, largely because developments in the Russia investigation have created a distraction during a critical time of preparation. Some briefings were delayed. Other meetings were cut short. But once Air Force One lifts off on Friday, a senior advisor said, the trip would change the subject and the surroundings for the president. This trip will do what we often can't do: keep the president focused on the matter at hand, said a senior administration advisor who is involved in planning the trip. For a president who often is difficult to pull away from the television or the phone, the sweeping change in time zones and the busy schedule will present a diversion. Trump's aides worry a poorly timed tweet in a region rife with nuclear tensions could derail sensitive talks with leaders in Japan, South Korea, China, Vietnam and the Philippines. Distractions over the Russia investigation could prove damaging in Trump's high-stakes talks. The ambitious foreign trip presents an opportunity to create distance, literal and figurative, between the president and a scandal-obsessed Washington. Trump himself sought to demonstrate confidence on Wednesday, telling the New York Times that he is not angry at anybody over the Russia probe and that he was looking forward to the Asia trip. But pitfalls abound, and Trump himself has expressed concerns at how the recent swell of Russia-related news could impact his negotiations with Asian leaders. Trump has fumed at the actions taken by Mueller, which he fears make him appear politically weak. He's suggested to some aides that his ability to negotiate with leaders, who themselves are enjoying new political muscle, could be hampered. These are leaders who know what's going on back home, said one senior White House official, noting Trump himself was aware of the dynamic he's flying into. On Trump's first stops in Asia, he'll encounter leaders recently emboldened. Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe saw his ruling party win big in snap elections last month. South Korea President Moon Jae-in was elevated to the office in May. And President Xi Jinping exited China's Communist Party Congress this fall, having consolidated power in historic fashion, a position that analysts said would provide him a boost in his talks with Trump. Obviously, he's in a very strong position with no visible or other domestic opposition, as compared to what best can be described, I think, as a challenged President Trump, whether it's Russia issues, tax reform challenges, things of this nature. So that certainly gives Xi Jinping a bit of a leg up, said Christopher K. Johnson, a senior advisor at the Center for Strategic and International Studies in Washington. Trump is anticipating intense talks with his counterparts on security and trade issues, but is concerned that the timing of this week's criminal charges in the Russia probe will hurt his standing, according to senior White House officials. He worries about his ability to negotiate with various entities and how much he's hamstrung by this, a second senior White House official said. But Trump embarks on this 5-country tour of Asia with relationships already blossoming with leaders across the region. The White House says the trip has 2 leading objectives: the rising nuclear threat from North Korea and trade. On Wednesday, Trump appeared cognizant of the sensitivities surrounding the trip. Bemoaning the U.S. trade deficit with China ahead of a cabinet meeting, Trump withheld insults directed at those responsible. "I don't want to embarrass anybody 4 days before I land in China, but it's horrible," he said. After a B.